Hey, what's going on, everyone? How you guys doing? Matt Jarbo here with 3 Buck Theater, and today we have been seeing a lot of news floating around the Twitter sphere, floating around Reddit, floating around YouTube that apparently Mulan and Black Widow are going to be going to video on demand or going to be going to Disney Plus simply because Disney needs the money, that Disney is hurting right now. And while that is effectively true, Black Widow will not be going to video on demand. Marvel will in no way let that happen. And there's people out there, predominantly Grace Randolph, putting out a video like this where she breaks down how and why these movies are going to be going to video on demand, none of which is remarkably based in any kind of facts. It's all speculation. And the other person is Jeremy Conrad from MCU Cosmic, who tries to make a name as an MCU scoopster, but got so BTFO'd over losing the information surrounding the Sony and Marvel debate over Spider-Man, that deal, that if you mention it to him at this point, I'm pretty sure he mutes you and blocks you. I know he used to follow me on Twitter, and then he stopped following me on Twitter, and then muted me on Twitter, and Grace Randolph has also blocked me on Twitter. Apparently, I'm not liked by some of these people, but let's call out some of their BS today, because I think we have to. I think we need to break it down and look at this from the Occam's razor perspective, and why these particular, I don't know, these scoops, if you will, are more designed to earn money than they are to actually provide you with factual information. So first things first, we got to talk about the fact that the reason why they're saying it's going to go to video on demand has everything to do with China closing down its cinemas once again. This is a big issue, and that is true. China the other day opened up 700 theaters, non-major chains, mostly small mom and pop owned theaters. They were going to be given 100% of the ticket sales. Some cases they were opening them up for free, trying to just get attendance up because the pandemic outbreak has started seeing lower numbers in China. But then immediately the government came in and shut that down, citing concerns over the pandemic. So now we're not quite too sure where the information is. And this is one of the key reasons why both people are trying to argue that this is where Disney's going to go next. Disney is losing about $350,000 a day right now by not having anyone, anything at the movies or anyone at the parks, and paying their employees and everything else. So much so that they had to raise about $6 billion, like through their stock, in order to be able to kind of like oversee costs for the foreseeable future. And the parks are still down until middle next month sometime, and even then it might still not reopen. And so obviously the company is going to want to find a way to make some money. So that's why people like Grace and Jeremy are trying to say that this is, a move on their part to go the video on demand. I do want to bring up here, this is Jeremy's article. So we'll look at Jeremy's article, because this is where we can get into some seriously pandering BS, and I really want people to pay more attention to it. So he says here that Marvel fans may need to prepare themselves for Black Widow not premiering in theaters. The truth of the matter is that, again, there's no evidence here in this article even remotely saying that this is a reality. It's just that this is something that they've overheard, but Grace has overheard it, and then he's trying to back it up. But what's funny about that, too, is he talks about it here. He says here, last night, beyond the trailers, Grace Randolph tweeted that she'd heard that there are discussions to bring Black Widow and Mulan to digital purchase/rental, very similar to what Disney just did with Onward. But then he goes on to say, unlike Oscorp and Far From Home or Black Mask's Dick Pics and Birds of Prey, she's onto something here, as it's been floated for a little over a week. And what he's referring to is that Grace had said that she saw Spider-Man Far From Home, and that at the end there was an Oscorp reference. And then she said originally the Black Mask diamond in Birds of Prey actually had dick pics and not encoded banking transactions for a mob family. So those two things didn't come to pass. But Jeremy here, like I said, has been BTFO'd in a number of these inside scoops. And so you have to really take everything with a grain of salt and look at what they actually say. So she talks about this here, said I did some digging with all the chatter, and apparently Disney is considering not just releasing Black Widow, but also Mulan straight to streaming. A lot of other people who work in the industry are flat out saying, yeah, it seems to make the most amount of sense that they have had these conversations. But would they actually put Black Widow on rental on VOD? No, they wouldn't. They have no reason to do it. There's literally no reason. Mulan's a different story, but we're here talking about Black Widow. Now, it says here she did respond to one angry person who asked why they do this, saying Disney needs to make money, and that's completely what's driving this decision. If it happens right now, all of Disney's theme parks around the world are closed, which will cost them about $3 billion. Their cruise line is shut down, most retail is closing, and most importantly, movie theaters are closed with no word on when they'll reopen and when the general public will be able to sit in a small enclosed auditorium with a crowd of strangers. So that is true. All of those things are true. And this is where we get into speculation. This is where we get into the BS. And this is where we get into what I view is somewhat scummy behavior. It's a business move, but it's not one I agree with or one that I like. Now, this is what he says. He goes on to say this. This is how he kind of backs it up a little bit, right? And listen to the wording here. He says, "Your supporters of the MCU Cosmic Patron have known a little bit more detail as I broke it down for them last week." So this is information that he apparently has info on. This is information that he apparently has had for a while. And instead of breaking down his information here, he is hiding it behind a paywall in order to be able to sell you on paying him money for this information that is purely speculative and nothing else. Nothing about it makes any sense. And that's pretty much what he's saying here. And then he's using her to back that up in order to sell you on a membership to his Patreon. I find that to be, again, it's opportunistic, but it's a load of crap, right? And there's a lot going on with this here. So anyway, there's that right there. That's a lot of what we know from Jeremy Conrad and Grace. They say their things. Now let's take a look here at the reality of the situation. Okay, like I said, China has shut down all their theaters again after slightly reopening them. We don't know. This is going to cause a bit of panic all throughout the world because China is the biggest market for movies in the world. So people, especially theater owners or movie owners and whatnot, they're kind of worried about what's going on. But when we think about last week, when Universal had announced that they were going to be putting Trolls, the world tour, on a 48-hour rental day and date release on April 10th, the day it goes to theaters, if theaters are open, we know that the North American Theaters Association or Theaters Organization came out with a very strongly worded threat. In fact, this here it says theater owners issued veiled threat to Universal over Trolls VOD release. So theater owners, the people who run theaters in this country, they're threatening Universal over releasing Trolls day and date on April 10th. But yet none of that mattered in this particular case. Now, Grace did mention that a little bit in her video, and she's like, well, Disney just bullies around theaters, but Disney also doesn't want to make them angry. In this particular case, they don't want to make them angry. The head of NATO actually said in that interview about Universal that other studios, particularly Disney, had bent over backwards to reaffirm all the theater chains that their things would return to normal. They bent over backwards to reaffirm this, and Universal didn't, which is why so many, why they issued that threat. And it wasn't even really thinly veiled. It was more like, you'll regret this sort of thing. So again, Disney is in the same boat as Universal. They still want to make money. They're actually hurting more. So it doesn't make any sense to want to go after and anger the theaters, right? When it comes to Onward and other properties that are out right now on home video that have been in theaters recently, they got a theatrical run. They got cut short. There's no way around that. That is just where things are. And as a result of that, there's really no need to push Black Widow to VOD. Not yet. Not when there is so much money on the line here. And I'm not even kidding you. Look at this here. The Infinity Saga, the first 23 films in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, have grossed more than $18 billion at the global box office. Now, this article is from back in July, right after the release of Spider-Man Far From Home, but it's very true. Disney bought Marvel for $4 billion, and then a decade later, it's made more than $18 billion at the global box office. And so when you've got the first film of Phase 4, one that's as important as Black Widow in establishing not only just her character's arc between Civil War and Infinity War and what's going on with that, obviously going to be setting up a trilogy. Let's be fair here. It's going to be setting up a series of films with her to take place in between those two major events. It's stupid to leave all that money on the table, especially if it's going to tie into the Falcon and Winter Soldier and Loki and WandaVision and all the other shows that are going to be coming to Disney Plus. And that is something that people seem to bring up quite often. Like, well, what about Falcon and Winter Soldier? That's supposed to be coming out in August. Who knows right now? It's currently on hiatus because of this whole situation, and they haven't shot key scenes yet, which Sebastian Stan was talking about the other day. So the likelihood of them finishing it by September or by August makes, quite frankly, no sense. That's not to say it's not going to get done, but it's also definitely on the block for being pushed back. WandaVision, maybe not, because that's already been shot, so they're in the edit bay of that one. That could actually come out first instead of coming out in December. That one could be heavily pushed to maybe August or perhaps October. Loki also was shut down. They weren't finished filming that one yet. So we have two of the three main MCU shows that are in production right now shut down. So obviously that's going to put a hamper in trying to establish the beginning of the MCU on Disney Plus and the beginning of Phase 4. So what does that mean? It means that Black Widow is in a perfect place to push back to another release date. And they are going to push it back to another release date. Is it going to be the Eternals? I don't know. I think it all depends on where we find ourselves in this country and in the world in the next couple of weeks. Now, the Eternals does open up, I think, in November. And so it would kind of make a lot of sense to like push Black Widow to November, push Eternals into 2021, push Shang-Chi into 2021, because that's still filming and that's currently on hiatus as well. I believe Eternals is in the can, so they could easily get Eternals out in early 2021 and then just go from there. Have that be the sequence of events in this. You push back the phases a little bit, but there's nothing of value that is lost right now. There's nothing of value that is lost right now. And I've seen a lot of people on Twitter trying to argue that there is some kind of situation where there's something of value that is lost. None of it makes any sense. And not if you look at it, again, from just a pure Occam's razor perspective. Now, let me offer my speculation about what I think could potentially be the new release date of Black Widow and what I think would actually end up being the best release date for it right now, provided everything ends up working out in everyone's favor. Let's say a perfect world scenario. Again, this is pure speculation. Free Guy opens on July 3rd. This is a 20th Century Studios production. This is one of their first ones coming out under the new banner. It's going to be their big July 4th release, and it's a Ryan Reynolds movie, so people are probably going to want to go check it out. But because it's coming out of the same company, you could just move it. You could just push back Free Guy into the fall or into 2021. And again, no harm, no foul. It's not part of a franchise. It's just a standalone movie. And you can easily do that, as well as then putting Black Widow in that release date and getting it out in the summer and getting it out well before Wonder Woman 1984, which has now been pushed to August 14th, which actually would at that time give it roughly the same amount of time between the original release date of Black Widow and the original release date of Wonder Woman, which would then give Disney a lot of time to make a lot of money, and people would come to the theaters for a Marvel Cinematic Universe movie because they've already been trained to do so. We've been going now for 12 years. We know exactly what to expect when we go. There's a loyal, dedicated audience of people who want to see it in theaters, and people would brave the virus to go out and watch it because they want to. And a lot of people are going stir crazy. So if we can get this thing under control by July, then it would make perfect sense to release Black Widow on that date right before 4th of July weekend, which is a big weekend nonetheless. Take it from me, I have worked for movie theaters for well over 14 years. I know what weekends do well and what weekends don't. And that is just, again, these things tend to just, they carry over year to year to year. So there are good dates, and this is definitely one of them. But no, when we look at the idea of Black Widow going to VOD, people, Grace and Jeremy have brought up the concept of Onward having done well, let's say via iTunes or via Amazon or via other locations like Fandango. I believe you can get it in a few other places, and that's good. I picked up Onward. I love it. I've already watched it a few times. It's a great movie. But how many people have pirated it? Well, the answer to that is a lot. You put Black Widow out there, how many people are going to pirate it? That would be a lot. If the Game of Thrones series finale netted about 19.5 million live viewers and 19.5 million people who torrented it, never mind private trackers or any of those private websites that people have access to that are very, very, very low key and hush hush, we don't know how many millions of people actually got their hands on Game of Thrones. But we know that if Black Widow was to come out, it would definitely get pirated. And that's a big factor. That's a losing money factor right now. This isn't like bootleg cam stuff where someone sneaks in with their cell phone and records the movie. This is a full-on 1080p, or in maybe if they release it in 4K UHD, a nice transfer that people can then watch on the comfort of their own couch without having to pay Disney any money. Now that's going to happen anyway when it gets released, but now this is going to cut in to those direct types of earnings. And people might say, but Onward is a kids movie. It's a kids movie, meaning that parents are going to be buying this movie for their children to watch. They're going to be able to want it on Movies Anywhere or wherever they're going to be able to get their hands on it. So it makes a lot of sense that it would be doing well because people would be purchasing it because it's a kids movie. But 1917, which just came out and apparently is #1 on the iTunes charts, that could do well on its first couple days. The way iTunes operates its charts as well is it doesn't give you an overall algorithm, like an overall average, I should say, over what is #1. It literally is what is #1 that day or the day before it. That's about it. It doesn't give you like a long lasting, a view of what is trending. It just gives you what's trending that day. And it changes day to day. So you can't even really trust those numbers anyway. But of course, Jeremy and Grace don't know that, or they're being willfully deceptive and not putting that information out there. So yeah, I'm going to be critical of those two because I think they're pushing false information at this point in time. I really do feel that Disney is going to push for either the July 3rd date or perhaps something in the fall, like with Eternals being moved into 2021. As I said, because nothing has been released in Phase 4 right now. Everything is up in the air for when it's going to be coming out. They're in no rush to put out that content. Mulan is a different story, and with China is the key marketplace for Mulan. So again, I don't think it's going to go VOD. They're going to want to get that Chinese money, and they're going to wait to get that Chinese money. It's better for them to spend the money for more advertisements or to reboot an ad campaign than it is for the amount of money you're going to lose now. It just is. What I would expect Disney to do is to find a way to digitally like resell other movies or like add in certain things, or maybe, start dumping a lot of content on Hulu, a lot of the Fox content that they currently have locked behind like their vault, the Fox vault, which is a real thing right now. Exhibitors who like to get older cult films are now not allowed to get Fox movies because Disney put them in the vault. Now, if Disney found a way to release those digitally and for sale, that would be a way to make some extra money. Disney's going to have to get creative in the moment, but releasing their bigger movies that are going to gross $1 billion on VOD is not going to get them $1 billion, and it's a bad business move. And if it's done in order to stave off some kind of Apple stock buyout, which is something that's been talked about, and I don't believe it's going to happen. The FTC would have to approve it if there was a merger or anything else like that, and they would be able probably at this point in time there'd be enough negative backlash against Apple right now because of where we are, that it wouldn't happen. So again, looking at where we are in the world and looking at the way businesses operate and the way Hollywood operates and the way movies operate and the way everything operates, which is something I pay attention to. Yeah, Grace and Jeremy are full of shit. They're full of shit. They're hearing. Okay, fine. Yeah, when you lock it behind a paywall, and they both do this, by the way, they both lock things behind paywalls, and I don't like that. I don't take what you say very seriously. It's one of the reasons why I like someone like Mikey Sutton and Charles Murphy, because they get their information and they put it out there and they assign their name to it. They don't hide it behind a paywall like Jeremy or Grace or Daniel RPK. I understand that's their hustle. I understand that's their business, but that's not transparent. And at this point, it's all speculative. And anyone who's looked at the industry, even people who work in the industry right now today on Twitter, are calling this out as being crap because it's just crap. Disney's not going to do it. It's antithetical to other practices. It's completely anti-business, and it's going to cost them more money in the long run than they might make in the short run. And Disney's not a dumb company. So stop acting like they are. Anyway, your thoughts, your opinions. I look forward to your guys' thoughts on this one. This is a bit of a longer video, I fully admit. But anyway, if you want to help support the channel, be sure to check us out over on twitch.tv/3bucktheater. The Hollywood After Dark streams are going to be over there. And then we have the Hollywood After Dark YouTube channel, which is linked below in the video description. And that is going to have the live replay or the replays of that. If you want to support the channel, you can always head over to our Patreon and go for $1 a month, just $1 a month. And you get to help out the show, help out the channel, help out the live streams. And anything I hear, you guys will hear, no extra charge. And I'll talk to you guys later. Have yourself a great day. Again, thank you for watching, and peace out.